marital betrayal and healing wrapped up in a dizzying mix of genres in confronting the black female experience in the US. This is 5 to 9's album of the month, 10th anniversary special, covering Lemonade by Beyoncé. I'm Andrew Belt. I run the 5 to 9 Instagram page, and joining me for this special anniversary episode is Album of the Month amigo Carl Blakesley of New Music Central. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. A bit tired today. I was foolishly up watching WrestleMania last night and the night before, so
Oh, right.
running on fumes, but
Yeah.
energized by music as always.
Energized by music as we begin the recording at 10:30 in the evening. So there we go. Commitment to the cause for show. So yeah. This is one which you suggested, you're familiar with. I was not familiar with it. So when did you first hear the album, and what was your prior listening experience with Beyoncé?
Yeah, so I mean, when it's one of those, I'd never really listened to Beyonce before this record, or really been into anything she's done since to the same level as this album, I would say. Obviously knew Crazy in Love and all that stuff, which is a classic track. I'll just say that. And then I saw her at Glastonbury in 2011, and was just, blown away by that performance, as I think everyone watching that show was as well. And after that, I listened to a acclaimed self-titled project. When it dropped not long after that performance. And that one again I'd say didn't really do much for me, to be honest. I know some still say that's her best work, that self-titled project, and I can appreciate how innovative it was at the time, with it being the surprise release and the fact that it was a visual album, two marketing tropes that have become quite popular, for surprise releasing music, and obviously doing the visual concept alongside it as well. But yeah, the music on that one just didn't connect with me. So this fast forward into this album, it was we got the notions of Jay-Z's Affair, the internet going wild with that elevator footage of, I'm not sure if you remember this, with Solange, attacking Jay-Z in the lift. And so yeah, and then to get ahead of the tabloid gossip, she kind of released this album. So that's how I came onto it.
And I mean, going on through that, I think you sort of said the prior listening experience maybe not too heavy. I mean, I'll just briefly, I didn't listen to this at the time, but previously in my earlier listening years was a fan of Destiny's Child, so I did have Survivor, one of their albums, and they were one of the better pop acts from that sort of period of time. Obviously Crazy in Love, and so I think I've always admired her as a vocalist for sure. And then this comes along, and you've already kind of teed it up with some of the backgrounds leading into Lemonade, which made it that element of almost infamy surrounding it. So how do you rate Lemonade?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying, when people ask me what would make up my perfect album, I think my answer is always an album that is eclectic in sound but cohesive in concept. So it's one of those where it's got a mix of ideas sonically, but still manages to flow track to track, which is it's a difficult balancing act. There's very few artists that I think can achieve it. But also alongside that, it gives you a strong narrative from start to finish, and then probably most importantly, makes you feel something. It has to move me in some way. So it's all well and good, creating something that's well put together and sonically interesting, but if it still leaves me, quite numb, I'd say, then it maybe doesn't hit the same highs as some other records. So albums that achieve that for me are like, my albatrosses, if you will, my 10 out of 10s. And yeah, Lemonade, I will say for me, is very much one of those records. I think with this album, Beyonce presents, her truth, her experience of that whole situation. And with each track, she kind of takes you, the listener, through every single emotion from, the betrayal, the anger, the sadness, like the hurt, and then right at the end, the reconciliation and like the redemption. It takes you through like the whole series of events, and she makes you feel exactly what she is feeling, and that's the central story of the project. But then on top of that, musically, it's just an absolute tour de force. There's pop, there's R&B, there's gospel, there's soul, there's rock, there's country. I mean, sonically and stylistically, these songs should be on, you know, not just different projects, but by like different artists. It's like uh the way she genre hops on this record, and that narrative pulls it all together so that the genre hopping somehow feels natural and it just works. And I think a big part of that is that she surrounds herself with like the best guests to do that with as well. I mean, James Blake, Jack White, Kendrick Lamar, The Weeknd, they all come in and just nail their assignment. And yeah, there's just so many highlights on this record. Hold Up, which is this, it's almost like this reggae spin on Maps by Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Karen O's even got a songwriting credit on the song. And yeah, obviously that chorus, Hold Up, They Don't Love You Like I Love You, straight from that song. But again, she puts her own flair on it. So that kind of, yeah, kickstarts the project. Don't Hurt Yourself, which is this ferocious White Stripes number with Jack White himself. Daddy Lessons further in the track list, which is this catchy like Americana ode to Texas and her Louisiana heritage, while also like simultaneously like touching on her like father's own infidelity and these kinds of things as well. And then you've got Sandcastles, which is this just gut punch of a piano ballad. Her vocal performance in that track is just so raw and so moving, I find. Um, yeah, just outstanding. And then Freedom with Kendrick Lamar in the back end, just this like liberating anthemic like gospel number with these amazing like church organs. Um, and then that's really where the album goes like beyond just her own like marital troubles and links back to what you touched on at the beginning, which is like, generational trauma and the struggles of her ancestors and um, all of this wider kind of societal commentary. So, um, and then it ends with the message that, love conquers all. So we get All Night right at the end, which again is kind of like that reconciliation right at the end. Just some great horns on that track, and it's really the moment that her family, after going through this, this betrayal and this incident, it's starting to come out the other side. Um, there's that great moment where she has a clip of I think it's Jay-Z's grandmother, where it's like life gave me lemons and I made lemonade, which kind of like where the album title comes from, and that really comes through right at the end of the record, which is them, yeah, coming out the other side. And then the final track, Formation, which was obviously a big single at the time, which is almost like it's almost, I always see it as like the epilogue. So kind of like you've got the first 12 tracks, are kind of like the the actual project, and then Formation is this epilogue, which is like this unifying, empowering message to, black women everywhere, basically saying that, you're the boss and to love yourself first and foremost. And um yeah, that's kind of like the message that it ends on. So yeah, for me, I mean, musically and conceptually, it's just an unbelievable work of art. And that's without mentioning the visual element of this album as well, which is great. She released the whole album with a accompanying short film that only elevates the story and the music. It's yeah, music videos kind of broken up with like these short poetic vignettes. Um, so yeah, for me, it's a true modern classic. And incredibly only made it to, I think it was number 7 on my 2016 album of the year list. But I think that's just to say how good 2016 was for music. I mean, it's my favorite year for music ever. But yeah, definitely an album that over time I've gained a greater appreciation for. It's one of those that when you look back, um, you've listened to a lot of albums since, and then you look back and you think, what, she really absolutely like knocked it out of the park with that one. I think for a mainstream pop artist at Beyonce's level to make an album, this vulnerable and this nuanced, um, it's just incredible. And yeah, I wish we had more albums like it.
Yeah, it's the legacy of it seems to be pretty massive, including some of the best albums of the 21st century and all this sort of stuff and pop. So yeah, I listening in 2026 for the first time, it's my expectations were always going to be sky high with this. I know what an amazing singer Beyonce is. I knew a few of the tracks, although surprisingly few, maybe. But yeah, just despite those sky high expectations, I think it is. Yeah, there's not much more I can add on top of what you said, really, apart from maybe a few personal highlights. I think, Hold Up and Don't Hurt Yourself featuring Jack White. Yeah, they're a great one too there. Hold Up is just a song as What Are You Doing, essentially. Um, and obviously the Karen O songwriting credit, as you allude to, Don't Hurt Yourself with Jack White is just getting very sassy, and
Mm,
you try this shit again, you'll lose your wife.
yeah.
It's
I would just
it's
say at
quite
that
funny.
point, I would just say at that point as well, I'd love her to do like a full rock album because her delivery on that track, obviously she's got probably the extra anger of the whole situation behind
Mm.
it, but yeah, she really comes in fierce at points on that. That she's
Mm.
got a second career as a rock singer, maybe.
Yeah, I think prior to that, you wouldn't maybe have put the two musicians
Mm,
together, but it definitely it works so well. Um, so yeah, that's another highlight there. And I was going to say that I think sort of returning to it where we are now, and still I see there's a lot of um, kind of coverage of Lily Allen's tour, because
mm,
the thing about this is just how candid it is, and it's kind of like it certainly will have been an inspiration for Lily
100%. Yeah,
Allen's
yeah.
West End Girl, which has been massively acclaimed and sort of applauded for again its candid nature of it in the face of a very high profile, at least in Lily Allen's case, breakup. Whereas with Beyonce, it was just a marriage on the rocks, but one which her and Jay-Z sort of came out of stronger, and I think that's where you lead to with it, and where it also stitches together some of those societal commentary and really bringing it into the black experience. Formation being a kind of black power anthem. So yeah, it's quite remarkable in that sense. Yeah, to
Mm,
go from the sort of however many stages of kind of, yeah, dealing with your partner going through such indiscretions and the anger to begin with and all this, and then the
Mm,
reconciliation. But yeah, the other one, which I think the third of the three best tracks is Love Drought,
mm,
which I just it's just such a smooth song you just really sink into. So
mm. Yeah, the production
yeah,
on that song, it's just, yeah, that's that sound in the background where it really kind of sets the atmosphere. Yeah,
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. So and as you say, all the you know the different genres as well. It's just
Mm,
fantastic. You know, James Blake on here, The Weeknd, Kendrick Lamar as well, which is when we get into that more
mm,
defiant kind of anthemic and an uplifting element towards the end of it. It's just yeah, truly a remarkable album. So yeah, glad that we could use an anniversary to sort of go back into to this one, and for me to experience it for the first time, and for you to revisit
mm.
and yeah, I mean, one of my questions is going to be sort of the difference between you listening to it then versus now, but I think you kind of covered it there, that you sort of hold it in higher regard than you did in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing when you do your album of the year list, it's very much a snapshot of that time, and
Mm.
you know, sort of sometimes the albums that really meant a lot to you in the those 12 months aren't then the ones that you know in the subsequent years, um, you know, stick with you. Sometimes, I mean, I think a lot of mine are, but certainly this was one. Um, And I'll also just mention that like David Bowie's Black Star, because obviously that came out the same year as well. And I mean, that was one that I rated very highly at the time. But even now, when I think back to, you know, listening to that, I always very much remember like the album dropped on the Friday, and then on the Monday, you know, I was like really excited to listen to the new David Bowie album. It dropped on the Friday, and then for whatever reason, I never got round to listening to it over the weekend. And then, of course, like the news dropped on the Monday, and then I listened to this project. I'm like, just, and then it becomes very apparent, you know, that it like this whole album is like him revealing like this illness that he's been living with, and like sort of tied to his death. And for someone to turn like their death into a work of art like that, it's still every when I think back to it, I'm like that will never happen again. That is like a one in a million album, and yeah, with this one similarly, like even when I was just revisiting it as part of this, I'm like, it just reminded me of just what an achievement it was. Um, like I say, to do the genre hopping that she does on this, but then make it seem so natural with how the narrative plays out across the album. Like, I think if anyone else tried to achieve that, it would just fall apart. It's almost like the perfect storm, I think. You know, the what was going on, and like it was like the perfect story and the perfect way to approach it. And you know, she's had those albums since I can't is it Renaissance? She
Mm.
had obviously Renaissance since, which was her dance project, and Cowboy Carter, which for me decent albums, but again, you know, some people would rank them very highly, but for me they don't even come close to Lemonade. So I think yeah, it's definitely one that in the years since, after you know you do listen to a lot of music and you listen to what other artists are doing, that is one that I'm like, you know, even her herself, she'll never hit those highs again. It is one of those albums that comes along once every, you know, decade or so. Um,
There's laying down a challenge. Hear that, Beyonce?
yeah. Someone
You'll
make another
never make
lemonade.
one as good as this, right? Well, come back and show us. But yeah, it's quite interesting because obviously, like you know, mentioning all the genres and how they could fit onto, you know, it's almost like this one is the blend of all these genres and showing
Mm,
a taste of what she can do, and then Renaissance, with Cowboy Carter. I think there's another one, isn't there? I thought that she'd done three, which were kind of go into specific genre. Maybe I'm
No,
mistaken.
yeah, those are the two. I mean, she
Those are
had
the
the
two.
one before, as I say, which was the self-titled, which is kind of like the one that led into this.
Hmm.
But yeah, the two since she's done is Renaissance, Cowboy Carter.
Okay, maybe it's the
Um,
third one, which is in the works, which has
could
been
be.
suggested, but I don't recall a rock one being suggested. So that's maybe another bit of
Mm,
laying down a challenge. We would That'd be great to see, her and Jack White again, go, going into the studio and
absolutely.
yeah, he asks her a list of things which he would put in room 101 and then just make an album of all of this, bottle that anger in
Yeah.
however many tracks, and we can add that to our album of the month
Mm,
roster. That would be good. But
yeah.
yeah, no, great to have this opportunity, like I say, to sort of dive into one which has such a resonance in modern culture, and just passed me by at the time,
Mm,
and yeah, realized just how good it is, and also to get your experience of listening to it, and yeah, subsequent kind of revisit and thoughts sort of 10 years on. So yeah, there we have it. We yeah, run through uh Lemonade by Beyonce, our discussion on one of the defining albums of the 21st century on its 10th anniversary. And you can stay up to date with what we're up to by following 5 to 9 on Instagram and YouTube, and keep up to date with New Music Central via @Carl Blakesley via Instagram and Threads. Thanks to Carl, and thanks to you for watching.